Today I'm going to show you how to turn up the hem on a ready-made pair of curtains. On these curtains we have eyelets, the rings that go over the pole, but you may have a track or a pole with rings on and we need to loop into the hook. So I'm going to show you how, first of all, to measure at the top of the curtain. The first thing you need is a fairly sturdy metal tape measure that you can lock. And this one is so old it's actually lost the lock on it, but try to get one with a lock. This tape measure is 5 meter. You need a good long measure if you've got tall windows. And the most important thing on this to have on a curtain measuring tape measure is a little hook. Now you can either hook this over the top like this of a curtain track, or you can get that little hook into the eye on a ring, in a curtain ring, and you can then hook that in and measure down. So let's have a go at this. Now, as I said, if you've got a hook and you've got a flat track and your hooks are the ones that sit on the track like this, then you can just put your point on the top of the curtain rail or track and measure down. If you have a ring, you hook into the little ring, and so it's hanging about here, so you go into the ring, the curtain ring, and come down. With these ones, because they've already got the eyelets in, we're going to measure them from the top of the curtain. Sometimes it's handy to have a friend to help you, because you don't want to pull on that, because you want to get them exactly right. So we can just hook on top of the curtain and then measure down. Now, when we come down to the bottom of the curtain, you might have a curtain coming to the sill or here, but you obviously measure to the length you want it. Bear in mind that if you have a tape that has pockets in it that the hooks go into, these can give a little bit. So your curtain especially depends very much on the weight of the curtain, but it can drop a bit more. So you might want to allow a sort of centimetre off the ground to allow for that. Unless you want paddle hems. And paddle hems, I don't know if they're very fashionable anymore, were the ones that would sit on the ground. So once you've got your depth, you just measure from the top, from your pole, from your hook, from your ring, to the depths you want it. Okay? And then, when we take the curtains off, we measure the curtains so we've got the length. Okay, I think that's all we need to say. I've now got the curtains back home ready to work on. Let's just take a quick look at the fabric, because this is going to be a really quick, simple hem turn-up job. It's a brushed cotton polyester, and it's backed in a polyester with blackout and thermal qualities. So it makes it quite stiff, but quite effective when they're up at the window. So because it's all in one, we don't have to worry about the lining. This is just going to be a simple measure, turn up, and we'll check when we get there whether we need to cut off or open this hem, and go from there. And then I'm literally just going to machine it as they've done, rather than hand stitch. So this is a really simple job. Now, once you've laid your curtains out, and bearing in mind that these have all come in a packet, you can see how creased they are. And the first thing that I would recommend is press them, just to make sure you've got everything smooth and you're going to have really good crisp measurements. When you press this type of fabric, very carefully on the front, start on a bit on the back of the hem if you're not sure, and test your iron. And you can always do it with a steam iron under another cloth if you're a little bit nervous. So I'm going to press them and then we'll start to measure. So under a cloth, press with a steam iron on the hottest temperature, back and forwards. This isn't the easiest fabric to get the creases out of, but they will have another press at the end. If you need to fold your curtains to store them while you're making them or turning them up, only fold lengthways. don't fold in the middle because you're just going to make more creases, and any little creases that come lengthways will just hang in with the folds of the curtains when they're hung at the window. Okay. Right, now the curtain is pressed. There are options on how you measure. If you have a lovely long floor space, then you can lay it out flat and just use the same tape measure, and you know you've got an exact measurement. If you have shorter curtains, perhaps you have a long enough table. My preference, as I'm working from home, is this long, fairly wide coffee table. Means I'm on my knees, but I'm happy with that because it keeps my back straight. And the problems with the floor or bending over a table is you can get some strain. So the next thing we do, if you're not doing it on the floor with a big metal tape measure, is just to measure, start to measure down the length. And all you need is a tape measure, long measure, and some pins. And just mark where that measure goes. Be careful of what surface you've got underneath. You can use a plastic backed fabric, a sort of table protector. This is an old table and I don't mind scratching it, so I'm just carrying on. So just mark, put pins in. You only need to put it in one hole across the length of your fabric on the metre mark. Okay, and keep coming across, and then when we've gone right the way across, we'll go down another metre and then find the end turn. Okay, so I'm onto my second metre now. You just butt up to that pin and mark at the bottom. Very, very simple. Always work on the back of your fabric. It's a bit different if we've got a lined curtain that makes the turning up slightly different, but you still work from the back. Okay, so we're now down to turning up the hem. The finished curtain length is going to be 2 meters 15. So I've got my 2 meters, and now I want to turn up for the 15 centimeters. Now if that 15 centimeters is going to cover the pin, you can just turn that hem again. So you sort of got a double fold. Put the 15 on the pin and draw your hem up until you've got your 15 centimetres. Making sure that's level and coming across quite neatly, as if the curtains were level in the first place. Okay, and then you just pin your hem in place. And then just carry on across your curtain. Make sure that's level and continue across till you've got the whole thing turned up. Now I've come to the end, and I'm saying 15 centimetres. Your measurements will probably be different, so this is just a guide. This is the length that I need them for the customer's window. Now you may have a gap. We need a nice straight line for when we're sewing, a nice even edge. So just pull your fabric from pin to pin and put another one in the middle just to hold it in place. Right, so now we have it, and the next thing we need to do is make a double fold. Now with these I've got enough to cut off on this edge. I can use the seam line just to cut across there, and I know I've got a nice straight edge, and then I can just fold it under when we'll work on that now. If you've only got a short bit, personally I would undo this, and so you've just got 2 folds, because if it's tempting just to leave it and then fold it under and make another hem, but then you've got a bulk and you can get a ridge on the bottom of your curtain, which you really don't want. It's not so attractive as just a double hem like this. Okay, so that is our next job. So we just come across right to the end. If you're a soft furniture dressmaker, or if you just use fabric, Never use your fabric scissors with paper because it will just blunt them. I love these scissors. I lived in Vietnam and I bought them there. Somebody binds them all and no two pairs are the same. So if you're a dressmaker or a curtain maker, look out for a good pair of scissors in Vietnam. A bit weighty in your luggage, but there was no way I was going to leave them behind. Okay, so we've finished that, and then we have our line. So all we need to do then is just double the hem up. Fold it in, pin it, and then we get ready to stitch. Just a quick tip about the hem. The best thing to do is press this edge, because once you've got that straight, everything else is going to sit into it. If you're not happy, this is cut off a little bit wonky, but you can level it up as you go, or you can cut it lower, or maybe you want just a little hem. But the more you leave, just in case you move again and you want to lower the hem of your curtains, you know, you've got a bit more to play with. If these were lined curtains, I won't get into it too much now because this is another video. If they were lined, I would want to mitre the curtains, and you turn the one sharp edge into another, turn it up. You do the same on the edge, and then the mitre will appear here, and the lining then comes down and covers that mitre. But on these, because they're very simple and we're going to keep it simple, I am just going to recreate the originals, which was just a fold under and machine across here. Okay, and press that edge before you stitch it. So we press one, turn it under, come down and press it, because if you press onto this fabric you can see the line on the front. Okay, so we just the two pressings of the edge, and then we're ready to machine. So the edges are now nicely pressed. Got some good neat lines there. Very easy and simple. Because this fabric is so stiff, it can be very tempting just to whip it along in the machine and not pin. The trouble is, sometimes, depending on what machine you've got, the foot, if it's a tight foot, can push the fabric along, so you can end up getting to the end and you've got a lap over that you don't want. So I always just put in a few pins, just so that I can check that the fabric is staying where I want it. And when you do that, if you pin this way, your machine foot will just run over those pins or beside those pins, and you can pull them out so easily then when you're stitching. Okay, we're now at the final stage, which is just to machine the hem. As a general rule, when you're matching thread, on the darker side than the lighter. Just thread up your machine, and I always like to reverse a little. Hold your threads tight so they don't bulk up underneath, and just reverse, and then you can fly. I've set this on stitch length number 4. I really miss my industrial machine, which goes so much faster than a domestic, but I don't have room to keep one in my little house anymore. There we go. And it's so simple. If you've got a nice straight line here, you just butt the foot of your machine up to it, and away you go. You can't go wrong. And you'll see I'm doing this on the reverse of the curtain, but it's absolutely fine on the front. Nice straight line. So we just whiz along till the end, and then it's time to return the curtains. Remember, as I said, to keep an eye on your hem, that everything is level, and you get to a pin and it's actually coming past the pin in the right place and not pulling that seam, and if it is, you just have to go back and adjust a little bit. Okay, so I'm right at the end now, and you can see where the pins have held this, and this is absolutely perfect on that edge. I've just doubled back a little bit, and then all we need to do is trim off the threads. And if you cut the front, you can pull on the back, and that pulls the front one through slightly, and then you can just snip it off. And because you've reversed, that's holding it, and that's it. Absolutely finished. And now all we have to do is press them again if they need it. And these were pretty creased in transit, coming halfway around the world. So I'm just going to give them a press, and then I will take them back to the customer. If you found this tutorial useful and would like to see more soft furnishing and reupholstery tips and techniques, please like, subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I post more. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your project.